Hello and welcome to the episode that was recorded live at the New Forest in the new Park Manor Hotel as part of the Hospitality Discussions UK Roundtable Roadshow. You might have heard the episodes where we were at the Independent Hotel Show in London, or at Taplow House, or in Kensington at the Rembrandt, where we got hoteliers together to discuss a number of different issues facing the industry and the businesses. So in this episode, we speak to Byron Fiddler, the hotel manager at Luxury Family Hotels, New Park Manor. We're also joined by the platinum sponsor for these roadshow, Alessandra Leone from Focus on Hospitality, Sharon Cowley from Net Affinity, Prem Jethra Odedra from Bite Lux, Paul Wells from Studio Moran, and Scott Turner from Auden Hospitality. We'll be covering everything from cost, revenue, and experience and expansion of hotel businesses.
Hotelier's Voice. Exploring opportunity in hospitality with Ryan Haynes. Hear from the people making a difference. From revenue to operations, marketing to digitalization, learn the thinking behind their decisions.
Firstly, thank you so much for inviting us here to your hotel and being so involved. I'd like to start off by really asking, what interested you particularly in this event and being part of this day?
So I think it was a great opportunity for us to be able to invite fellow hoteliers into New Park. We're a little bit off the beaten track, so not everybody knows about us. So it was really just to get ourselves out there a little bit more and meet like-minded individuals.
Well, in that case, Byron, let's find out a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Tell us about New Park Manor Hotel.
So New Park Manor is part of Luxury Family Hotels. So we're a group of 5 properties. Through kind of over the last 6 years, our owners have been investing heavily in bringing our product back up to the standard that is comfortable. We're family focused, so all about families, but we do also offer great stays towards couples and multi-generational and those types of guest types. We are in the middle of the New Forest, so we try and make as much of it as possible, whether that be through the textures and the woods through the property, but we also want to make sure that families have everything that they need when they're here. So whether that be milk and cookies at bedtime, cinema, right next to the family dining restaurant, so that parents can enjoy themselves and then go through. They can kind of stay and the kids can go through and they know that they're right next door.
You know, one thing missing from my meal last night?
What was that?
Milk and cookies.
For
adults.
You were going to say mushrooms.
No, I stay well away from those, fortunately. I don't like mushrooms. He does remembered that, which is such good hospitality there. So, what are some, you've been refurbing this place.
Yep.
A lot of challenges, I guess, in a building like this.
Yes. So refurbishment was long overdue. So we completed that last year. So we've had a full year of being able to run the property, get everything nice and settled down. And we're now looking to expansion. So we are looking at additional rooms in the next kind of 12 to 24 months, which is great. So our owners continue to invest in us.
Guests, as you say, very family focused here. What are some of the shifts that you've seen around their expectations or demands?
I think expectations and demands are getting more and more acute. So that means that as a team, we need to be better. So whether that be from pre-arrival calls, emails, what we want to do is be able to provide everything that a family might want. So if you've got a little one, we don't want you to bring, the kitchen sink with you. We want to be able to provide it. So part of that is by making sure that we know the names, ages. If you're bringing your 4-legged friend, we want to know their name because, dogs are also part of the family.
Yeah, you've got a lot of dog stations here.
Yeah.
What do you offer when it comes to the Wacky Tail member of the family?
So we've got the lovely dog station just outside, which is, you can wash muddy paws, especially when it's muddy outside like it is today. We also provide a bed, treats. We've got an a la barque menu, a dog afternoon tea, those kinds of things. So yeah, just really part of the family, and dogs can go everywhere apart from a few key places, but otherwise they're as welcome as the 2-legged guests that we have.
And your F&B, clearly a key offering here.
Yes, very much so. So we're growing our Sunday lunch, which is fantastic. We're getting up to about 100 covers now, which is great. And it's really just about continuing to expand on that aspect of it.
And dare I say, from today, any burning questions or anything that you're looking forward to talking about with your fellow hoteliers?
I think we've got a lot of challenges, so it's great just to be in the room and have the conversations and talk about what's meaningful to our industry.
Could I ask you a couple of the headaches at the moment that is sort of keeping you awake at night? What are those things that you come in and you're constantly having to face?
Guest expectation is a big one. That can be tricky, but it's really about getting that consistency. There are cost implications, whether it be food, energy, recruitment is a big one, especially around line staff, fundamentally around housekeeping, reception, and real key departments.
But first, Alessandra, from Focus on Hospitality, powered by Focus Group, which is one of our platinum sponsors. So thank you ever so much for sponsoring these roundtables. Firstly, tell us a bit about Focus Group.
Well, thank you for having us here and welcome everyone. Focus Group was born 20 years ago, and over the past 20 years has grown massively through the UK. We are an MSP provider that accommodates and help many different sectors. And over the past 5 years, they started to grow their hospitality portfolio. We now support over close to 300 hotels in the UK. And earlier this year, I came on board as head of hospitality to help bridging the gap between us hoteliers. I'm an hotelier at heart up to, March when I left the hotels world to join Focus Group. We focus on hospitality to help a lot more hotels understanding and navigating the challenges of implementing new technology, digital transformation, etc. There are a plethora of different systems out there today now. How do we choose the right one? At what point we do the implementation? What challenges are we trying to solve? And how would we cope with cost associated with technology? So that's where we come in, not just to sell you more product and more platform, is to really think the strategy with you and hoteliers in the room so that the right choice can be made at the right time to mitigate those challenges between rising guest expectations, team's expectation, the training, recruitment, training, and retention are an issue. So providing the right work environment for your team so they can be nurtured and flourish and stay and become the next leaders, as well as everything that comes with it.
As you said, you just left resident hotels prior to taking on this role. Me and Alessandra had quite a number of conversations over the last few years about the hotel tech stack, particularly the number of times that through residents, reincarnations in different forms and varieties from an individual hotel to a cluster of hotels, effectively, a number of property management systems were installed over that time. And so there was a lot to get your head around, and you went up through the ranks from reception right through to commercial director there. How is the right IT infrastructure supporting cost control and operational efficiency? So this is the infrastructure that sits underneath all your systems.
Well, you and I, Ryan, have many conversations around this. But over the years as a hotelier, and I started in very back of house in housekeeping many years ago, in excess of 30. So growing up to GM, the technologies were different and the expectations were different. So today, understanding how all of it works has become quite a minefield. And in my years at the resident, we had several digital transformations and several PMS changes, etc. And as a GM, that sat within my responsibility to choose the best solution. And then it remained my responsibility as the revenue director and then as commercial director. And some of the challenges, some of the mistakes, we don't often talk about mistakes, was expecting to change one platform and everything immediately to be better. But I was finding myself installing the very newest PMS and I couldn't use its core functionality. And then got on to this amazing RMS and it was slow, etc. And then I found myself, well, your connectivity is low. It can cope with the power needed. Although nowadays many platforms are cloud-based, and we expect them to just simply work, but we need the connectivity and the infrastructure that allows all these very advanced systems nowadays to work together, to integrate, so they can offer the seamless exchange of data and functionality across multiple departments that ultimately help the team succeed to provide those guest expectations.
I mean, it's not just with the connectivity side of things, but compliance, as I mentioned, and also just change in technology from even copper phone lines to now VoIP. What regulations and changes are particularly causing problems for hotel properties?
Well, with the evolution of technology, obviously the benefits have increased, but with that also the risk. We are very much more aware today of our data is exchanged. Data breaches, cybersecurity has become a huge headache that keep us all in the room very much awake at night. Because although we may have all our ducks in a row and have our due diligence in place and our teams are trained and proactive against the usual very simple phishing attacks, etc., the headaches that can give when one of those incidents happens just because a team member clicked on a phishing email, it's huge. What data of the guest have leaked out, and all of a sudden your phones are lighting up in reception because a guest has received an email from any third party's OTA or another element asking for, oh, we need to confirm your details, make a payment, otherwise your reservation will be lost. Where you're sitting there, we haven't sent any of these, everything is fine, and trying to route it back is definitely costly. It can bring all sorts of compliance issue around where you have to potentially make a report to the ICO about your data breach. And the guest ramifications are definitely worrying in terms of the reputation and the trust that those upcoming guests are bringing to you even before they'll be arriving at your doors. So definitely the whole GDPR regulation has brought some concern and some change in the processes that we have, in the way we store the data, access the data, and who has to access to that data, because we are the owners of that data, but we have so many data processors across the different processes and systems that we utilize within the space. So cybersecurity is probably the biggest concern nowadays for both technology companies as well as hoteliers.
I mean, it's the GDPR, and I know it's been in for a while, and there's a big hoo-ha about it, and you sort of focus on it at the time. But then I think it's so easy just to rest on your laurels and think everything's absolutely fine and not keep up the training and or notice areas where you could get affected. I know a conversation I had earlier this summer where the hotel allowed its staff to use their own phones, and therefore easy breach to be able to, when they were using the apps for the hotel with guest data, and suddenly had to go back and obviously get a load of devices, particularly for their staff. But how can hotels prevent IT and system costs spiraling out of control?
My biggest concern is that as hotelier, at times we set off on these transformational journeys without really sitting down and understanding what it is that we want to achieve and where we want to go as a brand, where we want to go for our guests, and what kind of services and journey we want to provide, and how we are going to pursue and achieve it. Cost is an issue if we're trying to stack up all these new different shiny tools that are available today, and they can affect your profitability ultimately. So I've had many different conversations with hoteliers since I joined. I've always had conversation hotelier to hotelier first. We're very good at discussing what our pain points are, but definitely understand where you want to go, what you want to achieve. And at that point, like you mentioned earlier, we have started to refer our work and have those discussions with consultants. Those could get very expensive on a long run, but if you utilize that expertise at times or entrust to a vendor that can provide you and can come along to that journey with you to put together the strategy and really make a plan of what then your platform should be, your technology stack should be, and how you use the new technology, including AI. And I'm a fan here not to replace people, but to empower and allow your people to work better and to mitigate some of those recruitment challenges that are keeping us at night at times, and the retention of those team members, to make sure that you're truly resilient and you meet those gut expectations and your team's expectation at the same time.
Excellent, Alessandra. Thank you very much indeed. So now we're going to dive into a conversation with Scott from Audin Hospitality, because increasing costs are hitting, obviously, profitability. And when it comes to F&P, how do you ensure that it's a true revenue generator? And Scott, you've been looking into some fascinating data in and around the profitability side of this for hotels. It's something that I think you and I originally had a conversation about a few years ago when we originally met, because it's been decreasing. Our profitability bit for F&B and hotels has almost been in a negative.
Yeah, sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Put that in on me there, but yeah. So I mean, we every year we produce a report with hot stats. We pull all of their data across all the different segments, hotel segments, and we break it down and look at where trends might be. What's really interesting is it was really hard to write this year's report because nothing's changed for about 3 or 4 years. Although profitability has slightly decreased, it's marginal in the grand scheme of things. I think it's about 22% versus last year was 23%. So nothing really. What we've kind of come to the conclusion is revenues kind of stayed the same, profits kind of stayed the same, everything's staying the same. What's happened, which is really interesting, is food cost dropped overall as an average over the last year. And we looked at a rolling 12 months. So July to August, 24 to 25, and then same going back 3 years. But all the savings that were made in food cost were increased in labour cost because the report pulls into account the recent budget that everyone had the uplift in costs. So it's just become really difficult. When I look at it, and we operate 3 restaurants at the minute in London, we've kind of done as much as we can on cost. It's really hard. We're managing many hours on variable labour. We've got everything as tight as possible on cost, from food and beverage costs. Utilities are what they are. We turn off lights and we try and keep it as managed as possible. But we've kind of hit the level of, if we go any further, we'll start compromising on quality. So it's very much a revenue game as such.
How are you tracking that? What sort of ways do you make sure you're tracking all those different aspects to look at the balance there?
Cost, from a cost perspective.
Cost revenue, yeah.
I mean, from a cost perspective, it's pretty. So if we look at our operations that we're running right now, weekly food costs, weekly beverage costs, line checks. We use a system called SUPI across all of our restaurants. It allows us to see real time depletion and data. So we've gone really super niche on managing that side of things. From a labour perspective, we're managing hours more now than cost necessarily. We're very lucky because we operate restaurants with trunk, so we're able to kind of go out with above market rate in a lot of the restaurants we operate because we're bringing in strong revenues. But really managing those hours is really key, I think, now in terms of when we've got little drops, and we were talking about in the other room, when we've got little drops in revenue, we're being really reactive, and we're managing it daily, on a daily basis. When we get the end of days, we're seeing how many hours are against forecast, and we're being really tight on it as the marginal gains.
So when it comes to the offering itself, menus, what's hit, what's miss?
Smaller menus for sure. That's something we're definitely seeing. We're trying to really consolidate that. We're trying to really look at how we can keep as little SKUs in the fridge as possible. And one of the big things that we're looking at, especially from a beverage perspective, is how much we're turning the bottles that are in the building. So if we've got bottles that are staying there for too long, we're either thinking about whether we keep them or whether we get rid of them, and start looking at whether we actually need that amount of stock on the list, or whether we need to just change it up because the guests aren't taking it. So that bit about making every bottle make money has become really key for us. We're operating in Covent Garden and St Christopher's Place. Our rents are 6 figures, double. Like we've got big rents in there. So all these little marginal gains of not having too much stock holding and things like that, especially when we're managing cash flow, is really key. So it really helps kind of niche it down.
Quick wins to get extra spend from customers and guests.
Quick wins. If anyone's using 7 Rooms, the upgrades section in there, we're starting to see a lot more people building experiences from them. So they'll make a standard reservation and then we'll tag onto it, whether that's special arrival beverages or champagne or something like that. And we're starting to see a lot of people do that, especially on special days, LTOs, that type of thing. We're starting to see experience become much more prominent in the pre-booking stage. And then we're trying to lock as many guests in as possible. So when they do take those upgrades, we get them to prepay. And we're just kind of locking that spend and make sure that people are going to turn up. That's probably the one that we've had the biggest hit. Again, we use 7 Rooms and OpenTable, not to plug one, across our restaurants. The automated emails after guests come, or in the case of cancellation or no-shows, we've found to be really, really profitable. So I'll give you an example. we have in St Christopher's Place, we have a restaurant called Noreen. We're currently making $5,000 a month. Doesn't sound a lot, but it's quite a big chunk of cash, which is pure profit, because as soon as someone cancels, we get an email straight out to them within 24 hours. There's a bit tongue-in-cheek and talks about like these things happen, even to no-shows. These things happen. We know people don't plans change, X, Y, Z. Please book via this link and book another table with us. And we're making $5,000 a month consistently in the first 6 months of opening on those, and we do nothing. So it's just revenue in because it's all automated in the back end. So I'd really look at your revenue, the reservation systems, and really look at how the automations in the back end can do it. Open Tables just released the function as well, but Seven Rooms has been doing it for a long time. It really helps. This automation piece, I think, where we're putting people, as Alessandra said, putting people in front of the guest and letting the systems do the work in the back end really helps to automate those bits that would get forgotten about in a busy space.
Okay, and then final question I got for you for this point is, what is exciting and engaging your teams? Do they ever get excited and engaged?
No, they do. I think it really varies site to site. I think, I'm not going to sit here and preach the culture aspect of it. I think in terms of the team member level especially, is trying to get them engaged and trying to give them something in return for getting their excitement and buy-in back is really key. We try and do as much as possible in terms of great staff food, really focusing on that. It's not as easy in a restaurant space where you do have staff rooms and things as well, so it's a bit more challenging. And I just think being able to have people there, management there talking on a regular basis makes a massive difference. So no real gems there that people are probably not doing, but it's still important to just be there and be personable.
Thank you. I'd love to hear what you all have to say about that. So I'm going to get you guys all into little breakout groups now. Perhaps if I start off over there with Sharon, what were some of the key points and talking points that you guys were running through there?
I think actually, the last note I wrote down was, it's lonely at the top. I thought that was a real summation of the room that, and also just collaboration is so key, and events like this are so important, where you can actually discuss, you come to an event and you kind of think, I've got loads of challenges. When you start talking, everybody has the same challenges. So actually realizing, no matter what property you are, who you are, what guests you have, actually operationally, the same problems exist. And actually realizing I'm not crazy, for thinking this. And sometimes it's just outside your control, but it's really nice to just talk to other GMs or owners to realize that, we're all having the same challenges. I think, again, just, looking at things like hospitality action support, so actually sometimes, decisions are really hard to make on your own, that actually using external resources like this is really important, that are there and knowing about them. Again, we talked about the systems and the importance of, like, the tech stack is huge, and how, connecting and using, focus to actually get that tech stack in place, but then knowing how, the data behind it, and actually looking to say, is it actually solving a problem? Am I taking, and sometimes I think it came out like that actually choosing tech is really hard. It's knowing, how to choose the proper one. Am I choosing the right one? Is it going to solve a need? And then, but then again, this is why this forum is really important. It's where you can ask the question, say, what are you using? What's successful? What's important? What is it delivering for you? Is it, solving a problem internally?
Thank you very much. And it is important to ask, who you use, what system you use. It's certainly where I've seen hoteliers in particular gain a lot more knowledge or decision making on, the best partners they can work with. I wanted to come to Josie from Stanwell House here, because it was really interesting about the relationship that you guys have and how important that relationship is. Could you tell me a bit more about it?
Yeah, so I think Tom and I were just saying, so we are both in kind of a similar situation in terms of both of our properties are privately owned, so we've got no sort of chain, no head offices, etc., in comparison to where we've sort of worked previously. My owners aren't hoteliers either, so I'm kind of on my own. So we kind of reached out to each other through a mutual friend not that long ago, but a couple of months ago maybe. And it's been really helpful for both of us in terms of even just sort of asking questions on, local suppliers or tech, like, booking systems, PMS and those kind of things. We both recently got our sort of payroll systems in place, kind of bouncing off one another with that as well. And just kind of knowing that there is someone else there that we can kind of call if there's, we've had a really bad week and we might just need to have a little rant to someone else that's not our staff.
Tom, so it's lonely at the top.
It is my trademark to say it. It is, yeah. And independent, working in a group is, you have to realise how lucky you are to have the support. Saw Shannon earlier about HR, and that kind of support network is really ideal. But when you're privately owned, you feel the challenges. It's always good to have someone in a similar boat.
Prem, you were talking at this table at the front. What were some of the sort of key talking points here?
So it was very much all about cybersecurity, and one of the guys in that group said that they have 40,000 attacks a month, which is just crazy to think about. It's a level of technical operations that a guest will never know about, and it sounds like these attacks are getting increasingly sophisticated. So you've got the basic things like booking.com phishing emails, and the level of sophistication is getting so sophisticated that one of the guys in our group was talking about how a website was set up to emulate the properties that they've got, some tree houses, and guests were turning up there and there wasn't much they could do about it. And because of this increasingly sophisticated level of attacks, cybersecurity costs are obviously just going up and up every year, right? And the level of training that staff are having to undertake is also getting more complex. One of the guys in our group mentioned how they've got 3 training emails a week just to ensure that no one is clicking on things that they shouldn't do. And yeah, that level of training really needs to ramp up as levels of sophistication do. And it doesn't really matter if you're a really large hotel or you're a really small property.
I guess it's in the same way as having a fire alarm, a fire test. You do that every single week. You make sure that's working. You perhaps need to do the same with IT security. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that the dread is not there. Scott, at your table?
We stuck onto the people side of things, and that's where we really sat with them. And we had quite an interesting debate about whether it's fun in hospitality right now for the people. And we used an example about how years ago there was the little extras, the little bits where you could have a bit of a party. Why would you go out for a party? Because you can have a party after work. There was some of those little hidden extras in hospitality that made it fun, that maybe now, because of the commercial pressures, process, etc., we've lost kind of big account bars and things like that might have helped fund some of this before. This is a very if you know type of conversation, right? But maybe it's showing more about me and my past than anyone else. But I won't tell you who else on this table agreed with me. All 3 of them. And so we talked about that. And now then it becomes much more challenging. The generations now maybe living at home a bit more. So some of those little soft skills that we relied on before maybe aren't there as much now. And it's becoming much more of a almost like fatherly, motherly figure from a leadership perspective. Mark talked about that, about him giving advice to some of the people in his business who wanted to then go and travel, and how could they be more set up to travel by learning different skills. And it's much more almost like that fatherly, motherly thing to get people on side that then helps them return that favour in advance. So the best conversation was around the fun and hearing some of the stories, get those in the breaks. But the serious bit is how now we're having to engage the teams a little differently to how we were before.
Excellent, thank you. Finally, I'd just like to come over to Shannon from Limewood, because people and culture is your thing. A lot of, obviously, you've clearly had conversations with a few people in this room, and I was listening to the conversation that you were having about what you've been installing over at Limewood to sort of engage people and create that sort of culture of hospitality. Could you just help share that with everybody?
Yeah, so I think just to start with, I wasn't planning to speak, so this will be a bit ad hoc. Try and keep it brief. But in terms of connections in the room, it's really interesting. So I worked with Tom back in Limewood days very, very early on as training manager, and so it's really great to see where you are now. I've opened a hotel with Guy over in Kent, the Pig at Bridge Place, which if you haven't been, do take a trip over there. And of course, currently work with Ben and Steve at Limewood, and Ben, we've worked together for 10 years as well. So I had the luxury of working with the Pigs and Limewood. They are now obviously very, very separate companies. But the key for all of it is culture, and engaging your team comes down to, do they believe in what you believe in? And that's almost kind of, that's your brand image. So if you're an employer brand, getting out there with, this is not so much what we do, because essentially everyone here who runs a hotel, you all do the same thing. We all do the same stuff. We'll put plates of food on table, provide nice rooms, and hopefully give them the right bill on the way out. So what we're doing is all the same. Why we're doing it varies massively. Founder owners, I've loved working for founder owners. I love that kind of, the answerable to what someone likes is great. But I also work for Taj Hotel, so giant, international, massive global corporation as well. So I work kind of both ends of that. But both really, all the companies I've worked with have a really, really strong culture. So it's easy to then get in and say, right, so the why we're doing it might be different, but the what we're doing is all the same. How we're doing it is why your guests keep coming back. Now, where I think I work with culture and laying down culture is to start, yes, everyone's got a vision, mission and values. It's all written down in your purpose, or whatever you call it, your guiding principles, things you'll die on a hill for, whatever we call it. But people who stop there, just write it down, put it out there, put it on a website, and no one looks at the behaviors that create that. But it's the behaviors that people see. Any of those studies is, 90% of what we think about people is their behavior, because that's what we see to start with. So if you can give somebody on entry, be it an interview, be it pre-arrival, or even on day one, here's what we do. This is why we do it. Do you believe in this? It's the same with your guests. You have to believe in what your guests believe in. Your guest has to believe in what you believe in, be it sustainability or being dog friendly or bringing your kids, or I loved it on the way in, adventure awaits. Great. If that's what you believe in, that's what your guests need to believe in. So they're here for an adventure and they'll get it. So do you believe in it? Whether it's sustainability or a green program or B Corp, whatever, you have to identify that and stand by it, not be all things to all people. And your team have to know the same. So again, you can't be all people with your team. And it's not about rules and regulations and old school HR anymore. It's about, what do they want? How can you bend towards it? How can you pay for it? Because it's what they want. We had a discussion in our group here, the millennials / Gen Zs, they're not going to change. So how do we adapt to what they can do and still run a sustainable business? Because they're not going to change, and they're not working like us, and they don't really want to work like us, but they do want everything that we've got. And they do want to be who we are. And you know what? I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think they can. We've just got to work out a way of them being really successful. So the engagement comes from, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. Can you get on board with that? Great. Now, how can we help you do that? And going back to that original, the conversations all the time. We have huge management presence. For a 33-room hotel, Steve, how many managers you got in your team? 9 F&B managers? 9. And it's not about everyone's managing something, what you're paying 9 managers for. Sometimes they're just there to talk to people, whether they're talking to a guest or talking to a team member. We have a huge mental health first aiders team. So we probably run two sessions of that every year, which means we're retraining between 8 and 16 people each time. We do youth mental health first aid. It's about, along the way on that course, they're picking up active listening skills, emotional intelligence, spotting people when they just need to chat, and making time to talk to people. The power of talk is huge. We're talking about it here, but if you challenge everyone in this room, when was the last time you just spotted that quiet guy who comes in, does his hours, heads off in the evening, doesn't want the overtime, doesn't ask for anything else, just does it, it's totally under the radar. When was the last time you really spoke to him? When was the last time you really made him feel like this was the place he wants to come back to tomorrow because someone's interested in what he did at the weekend, or his football team, or what level he's on Roblox these days, because they're all about 16. Well, it doesn't matter, but have some form of conversation and be really clear with what it is that you want them to do and how. This is a generation who don't want to be corrected. They don't like criticism, but they say they love feedback, which is, well done, you're doing great. And they want it by text message or in 5 seconds. They don't want an annual appraisal. So just cut it all. If you've got systems and processes in there that are just disconnecting from your team, don't do it. I can't remember the last time, I'm a people director, I cannot remember the last time I bothered asking an HOD, done your appraisals? None of you have heard me say, have you done your appraisals? The answer's going to be no, or the answer's going to be yes every day. So why am I asking for an annual appraisal document? Why are we doing that? Get rid of the stuff that doesn't work. Sit somewhere and talk to someone just for 5 minutes. Go to the canteen. We're doing something tomorrow. I don't know if it'd be popular or not. We're going to recognise International Men's Day at Limewood tomorrow. Because I am overrun with menopause events and women's events and every other event. So it's International Men's Day, and tomorrow we're going to celebrate men and boys in whatever capacity that is, whoever identifies as whatever. And you know what I'm putting in the canteen tomorrow? Massive hamper of Yorkie bars. Because if you know, you know. So a bit of humour and a Yorkie bar tomorrow. And you know what? I'll take the flack if anyone's offended by it. If anybody's upset by a Yorkie bar, let's have the conversation about that chocolate bar being really something you can't live with, right? So just go with it, but believe in what you believe in. Do it with humour, do it with grace, do it with elegance, and just make sure your team believe what you believe in. And every day they're coming in, and even if you just walk through and smile at them and get that infectious smile back, you just made someone's day. So it doesn't have to be comps, bends, free overnight stays, discounts, commissions. But equally, we have got life insurance, critical illness insurance, pension contribution. We've got all that stuff because that matters to one set of generation, matters to me. My life insurance, critical illness assurance and all that sort of stuff is really, really definite. Of course, you've got to have it, private healthcare, all that. But actually at the other end, that entry level, and we've got adhesive managers. I think you're the new kid in the block, aren't you? How many years have you been here? 4? 4. Yeah, so he's the new kid. Right? So you've got adhesive management. We've managed to stop that churn somewhat at the bottom, but there are just people out there. Believe in apprenticeships. They are the way ahead. Use phrases like, how are you going to be good if you're not practicing at something? Be better, put in the hours, keep working. That chat from people that they trust is actually worth way more than 50 quid overnight stay sometimes. And that's how you're retaining, that's how you're engaging them. Product knowledge, confidence, giving them stuff, briefings. I'm a firm believer in chat in briefings. Moment of the day, message of the day, motivational joke of the day, whatever it is, lighten it up, but just keep talking. So the engagement is with the belief, what we do know about the next generations. They all need something to hang their hat on, don't they? They all need to believe in something. And if you've not given them something to believe in, that's why they're not motivated or engaged.
Thank you for joining us as part of hospitality discussions at New Park Manor Hotel in the New Forest. You can check out our next episode, which is going to be covering revenue opportunities and experience and expansion as a consolidated episode. And check out the conversations that we're going to be having as part of the UK Roundtable Roadshow in Cornwall and Northampton. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Ryan Haynes. Ciao for now.